Famous acid bath murderer, which he didn't know about, of 1904, when William Hague was convicted of a number of terrible murders and acid bath removal of the evidence. But in this century, the William Hagues are rather more amenable people, and both of us are delighted to be here this evening. It's nice to be here in the countryside of North Yorkshire. I've been to 54 countries so far as Foreign Secretary, and I haven't seen anywhere nicer than Richmond, Yorkshire. If I go to another 54, I'm not going to see anywhere nicer, actually. I'm absolutely convinced about that. This week, as some of you noticed, I had to do Prime Minister's questions because David Cameron's out of the country and very sadly Nick Clegg was out of the We slipped a few things through the cabinet in but not everything, as you've also noticed, at the end of the week, so I had to do that. And this was useful revision for me, actually, because normally I just answer questions on foreign policy in the House of Commons, but on Wednesday I had to think about everything again. And this was a real reminder of a lot of things, because first of all I had to think about the opposition. Most of the time in foreign policy I don't have to think about them, but I had to think about Harriet Harman, and that reminded me how terrible the last government was. I had to think about Ed Balls, and that reminded me how terrible they would be if they ever won again. You wouldn't get Fred Goodwin back to run the banks, and you wouldn't get Ed Balls back to run the economy, basically, when you think about it. Ed Miliband wasn't there because David Cameron wasn't there, but he did give a speech yesterday, you will have heard, saying that it was all a mistake to have an immigration policy that let anybody into the country. Well, it's fine, they recognise that mistake, but it's a little bit late now, having admitted 2.25 million people into the country without asking enough questions, to say now that they think they have a different policy. Well, it's been up to us to change that, and we are changing that, bringing immigration down quite sharply, so we should welcome them changing their minds, but it's a reminder of what they were like. And then actually Fiona and I had to sit with Gordon Brown on Thursday. Was it Thursday? Yes, it was. So we've had quite a week with all these different people. With Gordon Brown on Thursday. And I was thinking about him with the Greek situation, because if he carried on, we would have been Greece. He left us Greek levels of deficit. Truly Greek levels of deficit. Our budget deficit was the same as a percentage of national income when he left office as it is now in Greece. So there would have been very little hope for this country had he carried on. So whatever you think about the ups and downs of government, just be thankful we got rid of that terrible shower who were there before. And we have to make sure they don't get back again. And yes, we have to work with the Liberals. That has its tiresome moments, I can tell you, but these were the cards we were dealt. The electorate in their wisdom served these up to us, and so we have to play that hand. And one of the facts I wanted to get across in Prime Minister's questions, but Harriet Harman never asked me about it, probably quite carefully on her part, is what's happening to the private sector and the public sector. And if you only remember one fact about the government at the moment, just remember this one. That the figures that came out on Wednesday morning showed that the number of jobs in the public sector has gone down by 420,000 since we won the election. And the number of jobs in the private sector has gone up by 840,000, twice as many. Now, it's essential in this country that we have a smaller public sector and a bigger private sector. Otherwise, of course, we would end up like Greece, Italy and Spain, and it's happening. And it's happening every month. The figures show it every month. And whatever else you think about what the government's doing right or wrong, we're basically rescuing this country by shrinking the public sector and expanding the private sector again that creates the wealth and the employment for the future. And we are gearing up this country to have its proper links with the rest of the world. This is what I'm doing in the Foreign Office. I'm actually opening new embassies and consulates after decades in which they closed. And our exports, I think I did mention this at Prime Minister's question, our exports to Brazil are up 37% in 2 years. Our exports to China are up 61% in 2 years. Our exports to India are up 73% in 2 years. So with the Eurozone flat or declining, we are making sure that we are selling products, making connections, building our embassies in the fastest growing parts of the world. So even with a coalition, we've got a government that is adapting the country for the future. And the other thing I felt very strongly about, that I was asked about in the House of Commons on Wednesday, is the reform of the benefit system. Those of you who watch will have noticed a Labour MP from London asking me about not paying enough housing benefit out. And I pointed out that there used to be people on housing benefit claiming more than £50,000, and that now we've limited housing benefits, and we're limiting all benefits to the average of what people can get if they go out to work. And that becomes the maximum benefit claim. And next year we're changing the whole benefit system so that everybody in any situation will be better off working than they will be not working. And when you put that together with what Michael Gove is heroically trying to do in education, well, this is the change the country needs. Incentives to work, real education, a tax system where businesses can invest in the country, and a bigger private sector. In a nutshell, that is what we need to turn the country around, and connections with the fastest growing economies of the world. So we're doing it, and we're only doing it because we won the last election, or we nearly won the last election. Now we intend to properly win the next election, and for that we have to muster as much support as we can, raise as much money as we can. We have to change the boundaries as well. And we're doing that. We are reducing the number of MPs. For the first time in centuries, we are reducing the number of MPs from 650 to 600. This means at least 50 turkeys have to vote for Christmas. It's a tricky thing. But so far we've got them to do it. And actually we are the right size, this constituency, so I'm hoping it won't be changed, although the current proposals change it somewhat. But the overall effect is that we will start the next election campaign only one seat short of an overall majority in the House of Commons. So the next election is really there to be won, and then we can not only do the things I've just described, we can do the things that we're inhibited from doing in a coalition as well. So this is really worth fighting for. This is turning our country around at a time of great international instability and very, very difficult times. And I'm not going to go through my whole portfolio of all those difficult times across the Middle East, across Europe and so on. You are well familiar with that. Just be thankful for something else, which is that we fought and campaigned so hard to keep this country out of the Euro back in 19. That's one of the best things we've ever done. So the Conservative Party, when you take all that together, is well worth supporting. And it's well worth supporting in all elections, and that includes county council elections that will be coming up next May. And we have the leader of the county council here and other county councillors. They do a fantastic job, and if you doubt that, just look at some of the other county councils around the country, and you'll realise what a good job they do. And we also have elections for the police commissioner coming up in November, so that there's greater accountability for the functioning of the police. And we're choosing our candidate for that position next weekend. Both the remaining candidates for that are here, Peter and Julia are here, and whoever wins, we have to make sure that they are elected to that position as the Conservative candidate. So there are a lot of important elections coming up at a crucial time for our country, and I just want to say thank you for all your support for the Conservative Party. and for coming here to our hog roast this evening. And please keep up your great support. Thank you very much.